Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. When I say historical romance author, there's probably some that immediately come to mind. These are authors that are well loved. They're constantly talked about here in the romance space of booktube. Over the next week, I will be reading those authors and seeing if I think they're as darling as everybody else does. So the first historical romance author that I will be reading is Beverly Jenkins.
Talked about this book to death, but like honestly, if you haven't read it yet, you need to. Beverly Jenkins is just queen.
I will be reading Forbidden by her, and this is about Ryan and Eddie. Ryan has built a successful life, but it all depends on him passing for white. And when he meets Eddie Carmichael, he has to decide whether he wants to be out about who he really is in order to be with her. And then I will also be reading Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. This is about Hester and Galen, and it is about the Underground Railroad, and many people have said this is one of the most beautiful romances they have ever read. Then I will be reading Johanna Lindsey.
Classic Johanna Lindsey, who I've only read one book from, but I loved it so much, so I want to read more.
I will be reading No Choice But Seduction. This is about Boyd and Katie and a kidnapping plot that takes place on his ship. Lisa Kleypas.
It is so good, but did I expect anything less from Lisa Kleypas? No, I didn't at all. It's just chef's kiss.
Everybody's favorite. And I will be reading the first book in the Ravenel series, Cold Hearted Rake. And this is about Devin and Kathleen. His estate is saddled with debt, and the late Earl's 3 innocent sisters are still occupying the house. Along with Kathleen, a beautiful young widow whose sharp wit and determination are a match for Devin's own. I have heard that this is not the best in the series, but I still want to read the series in order, so I will be reading this, and I also have a majority of the books in this series, so I might continue on if I am really enjoying myself. And then the last author that I will be reading is Elizabeth Hoyt.
I adore Elizabeth Hoyt. I think she is fantastic. I think that almost all of her books are either 4 or 5 stars. Like, they are just incredible.
I will be reading the first book in her Maiden Lane series, Wicked Intentions, and this is about Lazarus Huntington and Temperance. And it looks like they are navigating the perilous alleys of St. Giles looking for a murderer. And Temperance needs his help for him to introduce her to high society so she can find a benefactor for the home that she runs. And I also have the second book, Notorious Pleasures and Scandalous Desires, on my TBR for the month. So again, I might also read these back to back as well. Those are all of the historical romances I will be reading in this video. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into the vlog portion.
I wanna hear your heartbeat. I wanna feel your breath on my cheek. Pull me in, draw me closer. I wanna hear your heartbeat. I wanna feel your breath on my cheeks. For I know that only you can satisfy me. Oh, I know I'm
Okay, so I think I am going to start with No Choice But Seduction by Johanna Lindsey first. This is about Boyd and Katie. This is a step back. I am currently in housing counselor training. If you saw my last week's vlog, I am in a 15-day training to become a housing counselor for my state. So I will be in training all day. I won't have a lot of time to read at work like I usually do, or listen to audiobooks. This is gonna be an interesting week, but I'm gonna start with this evening, and we will see how I feel about it.
for a drink again. I am here, I am close. I want you to hear my heartbeat. I want you to feel my breath on your cheek.
I I am halfway through Choice But Seduction by Johanna Lindsey. If this continues on the same trajectory that it's going on, it's gonna be like a 3-star. This is the 9th book in the Mallory series. You can read it as a standalone, I'm pretty sure, but I feel like I'm missing some connections and things like that, which is my own fault. For starting a 9th book in a series. But Boyd is the brother-in-law to the Mallory family. His sister and his brother are married to Mallory relatives. And in the beginning of the book, he comes to visit the Mallory family in England, and there is a kidnapping of one of the Mallory's daughters. And so he goes on a investigation to figure out and bring the child back. That is where he runs into our heroine, Katie, who she wants to visit every place that she can. She is in London, and one night she hears like some weird noises from a room next door to her in the inn that she's staying in, and she goes to investigate, and she finds the daughter of the Mallory sibling in the room, and so she sneaks her out of the room. She's tied up and she's gagged, and with the help of her maid, she gets her back on the road to go back to her family. Twists and turns happen, and she ends up at the same inn that Boyd and the Mallory brother are at. And it's just a lot of like contrived plot, I think, to pad the story a little bit. It is about 450 pages, and we could have had a lot less to get us to this point where our hero needs to grovel. Heroine is just dumb. Like, she's stupidly optimistic. She makes choices to trust people that she shouldn't be trusting, because she's just so unfailingly decides that she wants to see the good in everybody and that nothing bad could ever happen to her. She goes on this voyage across the world with no pre-planning, with nothing in her mind having figured anything out, just believing that only good things are going to happen to her, and it's kind of irritating. So that's kind of why it would sit at a 3-star for me. But we are now at the point where they set sail, and I'm sure we'll get some great tension, some groveling, and all of that kind of stuff. And we'll see how it ends up being at the end. I will update you when I am finished. Hi friends, I have finished No Choice But Seduction by Johanna Lindsey, and I have given this 2 stars. I think the largest issue that I had with this was that I don't know the intention of the tone of this. I don't know if it was supposed to be over the top and dramatic and funny, or if it was supposed to be serious. It wasn't really clear, and I think because I hadn't read any of the other Mallory books, maybe that was lost in translation for me. It just felt overdone. I just didn't enjoy the tone of it. It just felt like I was reading about the dumbest coincidental things happening and then miraculously resolving themselves. Will say, if that is the tone, if this is supposed to be funny and just like historical romance comedy, then this is like a 3-star. But if it's not, then this is a 2-star. Like, if this is supposed to be some epic romance, like, I don't see it. I think both of them are just kind of too dumb to be like real people. The heroine is incredibly childish. She lies all the time. For God's sake, she lied to the hero about being married 4 separate times. She lied to him about being married, then said she lied, and then said she lied about lying, and she actually is married, and then said she lied about lying about, like, she lied 4 times about the same thing. It was annoying, and she made up all of these stories, and she just felt very childish, and she would overblow every single slight from the hero that would require him to grovel over and over again. And there's a scene of them like getting away from the crew as him trying to woo her that I hated, and like I just saw it from a mile away and just was like creating conflict after conflict, and I really did not like this. I do have another Johanna Lindsey that I am willing to try, even though it has pretty similar ratings. It's The Pursuit or something along those lines. So I'm not giving up on this author, because when I read the reviews, most people were like, this is vastly different than anything I've ever read from her. So I'm hoping this is just like a one-off, but this is not like romantic. This is not what I would expect. So I just am not a fan of that. Something that I am absolutely loving is I started the audiobook for Indigo. It's just heads and shoulders better than this. Like, I am blown away with how good it is. This is, I think, my third or fourth Beverly Jenkins, and this is just vastly different than anything that I've read from her so far. Hester and Galen, and Hester was an escaped slave, and now she is a member of the Michigan's Underground Railroad. And one day, one of her conductors brings in an injured man to hide him away, and she takes him in, and he is the Black Daniel, which is someone who is very well renowned within the Underground Railroad network as someone that will help rescue slaves. And so she nurses him back to health. I am only a couple of hours in, so I'm not too far in, but the writing is just exceptional. Something I didn't really like about the Destiny series was the choppy and disjointed writing, but this flows very beautifully. It is dual POV, but it's like you're getting their points of view at the same time. So you'll be in his head in one sentence, and then you'll be in her head in the next sentence. But I'm super, super enjoying it. I actually am waiting for a physical copy to come through for my library, and I also have the ebook versions. I want to read those physically and not listen to the audiobook, because sometimes, especially with historical romances, just because I'm so new to the genre, some of the emotional impact is lost on me, and I want to feel the full emotions of it. But so far, I'm blown away. It's absolutely gorgeous. The way it's written is just so beautiful. So I think the next thing I'm going to start is Forbidden. I think this is part of her Old West series. I could be incorrect. If you have any other Johanna Lindsey recommendations down in the comments, please, please, please let me know. I would love to continue trying her, because from what I've seen of the reviews, this was very not typical of Johanna Lindsey. So I would like more recommendations, but I'm going to start this, and I will update you guys when I have some thoughts. So I decided that I wanted to continue reading Indigo. I didn't want to wait for the physical copy. And I'm only 27% in, and it's so beautiful. I want to cry. Their first kiss scene is just I want to cry. Hi friends, I just finished Indigo. Like I said, I didn't want to wait for the physical copy, so I read the ebook, and it was fantastic. I gave it 4 stars because I felt like they weren't really together after they were together. There was a lot of scenes of them separated, and I would have liked them doing a lot of the stuff together. So once they actually got together, and then it became about their different jobs and things like that, like what she was doing with the money and what he was doing as the Black Daniel, they weren't together as much. which, I mean, I understand historically why, but I would have liked it like just for my little romance heart. So I gave it 4 stars, but this was one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. Like, their relationship was incredible, and Galen loved her so much. Like, his love for her was so immense, and his understanding and his compassion for her was insane. Like, he truly wanted her to have the most perfect life that she could have, and he wanted her to have what she wanted, and he gave her so much autonomy, and like, he just respected and loved her so much, and it was like absolutely just beautiful. And yeah, I can see why some people would say this is like the most romantic book they've ever read, because it's gorgeous, and it's unlike any Beverly Jenkins that I've ever read. It has like her trademark history woven in there, a lot to do with freeing slaves and the laws and the treatment of Black people around the time, very entrenched in the story. And it just feels like a whole experience. Like, you're living with these characters, you're seeing their romance, but you're also seeing how the world is for them and their feelings about that, and people's interactions with them and their feelings towards them. Like, just, it's like a whole other experience. And this just feels so different than anything else that I've read by her. This feels so complete and so beautifully done, whereas I feel like her other ones had like this kind of disjointed element to it, but this was just so beautiful. And seeing the back and forth, and like, this was slow burn, and it just was so beautiful. And I'm so glad that I read it. So now I think I'm going to move on to Lisa Kleypas' book, just because I feel like if I go in to Forbidden and the writing isn't as beautiful, it's gonna affect the way I feel about it a little bit, because I just feel like I might have read the best book that Beverly Jenkins has ever written, or like any historical romance author has ever written. So I know that if I try to read another Beverly Jenkins and it's not quite as good, I'm not saying that it won't be, but I will be disappointed. So I don't want to already go in thinking that it's going to be disappointing, or like already setting it up for failure. So I think I'm going to pick up Cold-Hearted Rake. I was going to save those two for the end because I thought about reading more in the series in this video, but it's already going to be a pretty long video, so I probably will just read the first ones. Anyways, I'm going to go read Cold-Hearted Rake, and we'll talk later. Hi friends, it has been several days since I've updated you, but I just finished Cold-Hearted Rake, and unsurprising to everybody, I gave this 3 stars. The heroine is just completely insufferable and annoying and self-righteous and hypocritical, and just makes all of the most annoying decisions and blows things out of proportion. So this is basically about Devin and Kathleen married into the Ravenel family, and like 3 months prior to the events of this book, her husband Theo died in a horse accident or something like that. Like, he was thrown off a horse, and then Devin is the one that is going to take over the estate, and in the estate is Theo's 3 sisters, 2 twins, and Helen, who is the oldest. And then Kathleen. So Devin comes, and immediately he's like, I want to sell this. Him and his brother West come. He's like, I have no interest in this. Like, I don't want to run an estate. And he sees like the terrible conditions that the estate is in, and then the land is in, and he wants to sell it, but feels immediately enamored with Kathleen, and he doesn't quite know why, because she fights him at every turn, but he finds her beautiful, and he's just very attracted to her, and he loves arguing with her. And so he quickly decides that he wants to take this estate on and do what he can. And his brother West is like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. He quickly finds a place at the Ravenel estate with the girls. Slowly see him overcoming his addiction, or at least being able to control his addiction, and him kind of finding a place. Devin is very much like, I want to fuck you, like I want to have an affair, I'm very attracted to you, but Kathleen doesn't want an affair. Devin is like seducing her because he's determined to have her, and she's just hooking up with him and then pushing him away and hooking up with him and pushing him away over and over and over again. And that was the issue that I had with this. Halfway through about, you start getting the love story between Helen and Winterbourne. Very excited to get to Winterbourne's book. I think it was a good setup and it has made me want to read more, but this is not the best. These are the last two that I have, Forbidden and Wicked Intentions. And so I think I am going to start Forbidden. And it is 360 pages. I'm going to start this and we will talk when I have finished it. I keep saying I'm gonna update at the halfway mark, but I end up just wanting to continue reading. So we'll talk when I've finished it. Hi friends, I just finished Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and I am going to give this 3 stars. This is about Edie and Ryan, and in the beginning of the book, Edie is attempting to make her way to California to start her new life, and she ends up getting robbed and left in the middle of the desert by someone. And this is where Ryan sees her, takes her and nurses her back to health, and the person that robbed her took all of her money, so she ends up working in a restaurant in the town that Ryan took her to and lives in. And Ryan owns a saloon in this town, and he is white passing, and he is engaged to like a local Republican member's daughter. Edie and him have this immediate connection. I'd say like the first half is them having back and forth while he's still engaged, and then something happens and then he's freed, but it still comes to him being white passing and her being black, so they obviously can't be together, it's illegal. I just found their relationship to be kind of boring. I didn't really feel any chemistry between them, and I didn't feel like the high stakes of like the forbidden aspect. I always say that like Beverly Jenkins stories usually are very quiet, and that's kind of how this felt as well. Not a lot of intensity, not a lot going on. It's just people like living their lives with a romance thrown in, and that's kind of how this one was as well. It wasn't a lot. Like, she's just kind of cooking and he's going to like Republican meetings, and that's it. And then like the romance between them on again, off again, on again, off again. So definitely wasn't the best Beverly Jenkins I've read, but it wasn't horrible. Like, it was just kind of okay. It wasn't a 2-star, wasn't a 5-star. It was just a, you know, regular old 3-star. So I still have several Beverly Jenkins left on my TBR that I haven't read that I will read, but this one just didn't blow it out of the park. So that means the last book that I have to read for the video is Wicked Intentions by Elizabeth Hoyt. This is the first book in her Maiden Lane series, and I don't know much about the series. All I know is like there is this like underlying Batman-esque plotline that I'm pretty excited about. I am going to start this. It is just under 400 pages, and hopefully I enjoy it. I am about to go into my housing counselor training, so I don't know how far I am gonna get into this today, but I'm gonna try to finish this and get this video out by tomorrow. It's Tuesday now. I would like to get this done by tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. So we'll talk again when I am done. I'm only 30 pages in, and yes, I'm reading it during my housing counselor training, but I'm already loving it. That's a bold claim to make 30 pages in, but hey friends, I have finished Wicked Intentions, the first book in the Maiden Lane series by Elizabeth Hoyt, and I have given this 5 stars. This is about Lazarus and Temperance, and Temperance runs a orphanage, and one night she comes into her parlor to find Lazarus there to make a deal with her. He will introduce her to wealthy patrons for her orphanage, and she will take him around St. Giles, introduce him to some people that might know about a crime that he is looking into. This was stunning. Everything I could have wanted in a historical romance. It has the mystery aspect. Their relationship was just on fire, and it was just perfect. This writing is like on another level, honestly. Her writing ability is insane. Their chemistry was fantastic. The relationship and the mutual respect and love that they had for each other and the desire to heal each other was just beautiful. Like, if this is what I have in store for the rest of the series, I want to start it immediately because this was so good. So good. This might be the best historical romance I've ever read. Like, it was actual perfection the entire time. I have no complaints about this. Like, I have no complaints about this. I don't think the beginning was slow. Their chemistry was nutty. And the writing was fantastic. The like gritty atmosphere mixed with the murder mystery is just great. And I'm very interested in this Ghost of St. Giles setup that they put in here. I'm interested in all of the other storylines that they introduced. Like, this was just a beautiful book. So that means I finished all of the books that I wanted to read for this video. I found some great historical romance authors that I definitely want to continue reading. Even though I didn't really like the book by Johanna Lindsey, I will definitely be reading more. I loved and continue to love Beverly Jenkins. Indigo was absolutely beautiful, and I am very excited to get to the rest of her books that are on my TBR. Lisa Kleypas is, of course, a historical romance queen. I believe in her abilities, even though the first one in the Ravenel series wasn't my favorite. And then, of course, this was just absolutely stunning, blew me away. Leave your comments down below on any of the recommendations for the authors that I read in this video. I would love to know your favorites from these authors. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.